Good morning. Hump day. Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time from sunny Melbourne, Florida. Well, the sunny part is yet to be determined. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Let's get right to it. I can't wait, and I'll tell you why. We're going to drink it if we got it. And I got it, and it's new. It's a new coffee, and I'll tell you all about it. I'm going through my new coffee adventure. Many of you know about it. Some of you don't. But this is my first sip of this new coffee. I haven't even tried it yet. Let's see how it is. Here we go. It's different. All right. Yes. It's not bad. It's not bad, but I made it this morning with my Keurig machine in some new stainless steel little K-cups with little K-cup filters. The coffee is Kicking Horse coffee. The blend is called Smart Ass, which I think is appropriate for me, and it's supposed to be a medium-bodied, very high quality, fairly expensive, but not. I didn't get it beans. I got it ground because I don't have a grinder yet. That's the next on my list. And becoming a coffee connoisseur. It needs to be a little bit stronger. I need to probably, if I use the Keurig machine, fill the K-cup up as much coffee as I can get. And Barry Simon and I were talking about that last night on the members live stream. And but it's it tastes great. It not bitter at all. It's definitely an improvement over that Amazon's own stuff I've been using. What I need to do is try to make a whole pot of this in my regular coffee maker and see. I thought using the K-cups might work, but if I can't make coffee any stronger than this, I won't like it. But I got it, so I'm damn sure going to drink it right now. Brody says their slogan is "Wake up and kick ass." I love it. Very creative, if nothing else. And I thought I ordered something else from Amazon, but this came. And I must have ordered it because Amazon does that. They don't send you what you didn't order, but you click on something and up it comes. You think that's what you meant to click on, and it may be something else. But since I had no idea about what I was looking for and just trying to find a better coffee, this thing came up and I read about it and said, this looks pretty good. And I thought I'd try it. It's very expensive, unfortunately. It costs about 4 times as much as the Amazon stuff that I was using. John Logan says, try Lavazza Oro, very good coffee. Yeah, I'm going to try to elevate after all of these years. Elevate my, because for me, the same thing with my cigars. As long as it's a decent cigar and it burns good, draws good, is built well. I'm not very picky, and I've never been very picky about coffee. But there must be something to it. Same thing with wine. Back in the days when I would have a glass of wine with my son, it was all about the ritual, all about nuances, all about notes of this and taste of that, and smelling it, and it's got a great aroma, and it's got a good ear, and all that other nonsense, pretentious. And I said, it tastes like wine. And even when I was in the cigar business, we made cigars. We made it with good tobacco. They were good. But people would say to me, well, Mitch, tell us what you think about that cigar. And you read the cigar reviews, and they're just as phony and pretentious, I think, as the wine reviews and maybe even the coffee reviews. The reviews say, starts with hints of peppermint and berry and a little, and I taste it, and I taste this stuff, and I say, it tastes like wine to me. Tastes like wine to me. And people used to ask me, Mitch, and I'd say, what? And they'd say, Mitch, what does that cigar taste like? And I would look like I was giving it some deep and careful consideration. And I'd take another little puff and go through all the pretentious motions of deep thought and analysis. And I would say, well, imagine if you set some tobacco leaves on fire. Well, that's kind of what it tastes like. And the same thing with wine. Imagine if you threw some grapes on the ground and stomped them with your feet. Oh, yeah, that's kind of what it tastes like, I would say. And I've always been that way to coffee. So I'm working real hard to try to detect the subtle nuances and the hints of this and that and notes of the other thing in here. But it pretty much tastes like coffee. Yep. I'm more concerned about any poisons and bad shit that might be in it. And that's why I seem to be motivated to try a higher quality of coffee if I can truly believe. And this is the key. We all fall for this stuff. Look at the industries. We all fall for this. My wine is better than your wine. My cigar costs more than your cigar. My coffee is the best, grown by Juan Valdez, exactly at 7,357 feet in the mountains of Colombia. Not 38 feet, but must be 37 feet. Or my grapes were grown in a microclimate area in the Napa Valley, and I'm sure I'm insulting all the wine connoisseurs out there, but I'm trying real hard, my friends. I'm trying real hard to truly appreciate why I want to spend 4 times as much for this coffee. And I'm not saying it's not good. It is good. It is good. It needs to be a little stronger. It needs to be a little stronger. So I'll play with it some more and leave the jury still be out. See, Kelsey is done over there. Okay. I got to watch a little bit of Kilts this morning, and his guest didn't show up again. That must be frustrating. And I can understand. It's not really a lot of times the guest's fault. It's internet connection, technology, or maybe they just plain didn't set their alarm clock, whoever the guest was. But I know how he feels. That's kind of like I feel when I'm on a members live stream by myself, asking people to come in and join me in the panel, and nobody comes. And I say, well, I wasn't prepared for this. But they come in eventually. We had a good one last night. Had a good time. We had a good time. First one in, Michael Seeley. I think YouTube deleted all of the chats from yesterday. This one was at 4 a.m. And then Mary M came in. How you doing, Mary? Good to see you. Wayne Herman, Lake Gaston, all the usual suspects. Mike Seeley in Melbourne checked in. How you doing? And Lucy Work checked in. Jem out there first thing in the morning. Hi, Jem at 4 a.m. Robbie Autry. Hi, Robbie. Good morning to all the Mitch Fits. And the winner this morning, Lambs, back in action. Congratulations, my friends. You were the first one at 7, followed by Barry Simon, my coffee connoisseur guide. And we talked about that last night. That was a nice conversation, but it needs to be a little stronger, Barry. I need to, if I'm going to use the K-cups, I need to cram them chock full. You suggested that. It was almost full, but it's just, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think what I'll do, as soon as I'm done here on the live stream, is I will get the percolator and make a whole pot of this stuff, at least 3 cups, and put the usual amount of coffee that I used to use in the filter, which is I would put 4 heaping tablespoon measures of coffee into the paper filter to make 3 cups. Now these are 3 16-ounce cups. I probably shouldn't drink all that today, but I want to try to find the experiment and find the right amount of this before I give any opinions about whether this coffee is indeed so far superior in taste and quality that I need to spend that much money. Although, it's pennies a day, basically, a buck a day, no matter how you look at it. It's not a major expense. Brian Dish, how you doing, Brian? Good morning to you. How are you? If you got any questions or comments or anything you want to talk about today, kindly put it in the chat. 67 people here so far on a Wednesday morning. And no cell phone version of this video to split the chat up. So all your friends are indeed in this chat that you're seeing this morning. And Tuka says, QQQ, how are you, boss? I'm doing pretty good, Tuka. Feeling good. Feeling good. It's going to warm up a little bit today. It's about 60. It's about 65 out there this morning as opposed to 51 that it was yesterday. That's a big, big, big difference. Big difference. Jerry's here. Hi, Jerry. How you doing? And who is this? Joshua English. Greetings from Indiana. Good morning to you. Patty Molden is here. Hi, Patty. Good to see you. Marla Kelly. Hi, Marla. And Sandy Blythe. Hi, Sandy. Good morning from Florida. Yes, it's a good morning from Florida. And it looks like the sun is coming up, but they're saying it's supposed to be cloudy today. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Who else we got here? We got Rick from Miami. Hiya, Rick. And Don Schauger came in. This is still right after 7 o'clock. Butch is here. Hi, good morning from Funk, Nebraska. I won't say it. But I love that name. And when I first saw that, I did Google it to find out if I was being punked or not. But it's a real city in Nebraska. Captain America, Steve Rogers from Kansas City. Good morning to you. And Carnivore Jerry says, it's different. You're talking about my coffee, I guess. It's not. The one thing that's missing that I noticed in most of the other coffees I drank was any hint of bitterness whatsoever. It's smooth as hell. And maybe I've been associating that bitterness all my life with actually what coffee is supposed to taste like, that maybe I need to allow myself to try to become a connoisseur. And the closest that I've been to a connoisseur in my life was my old buddy used to say, when people would talk about being a connoisseur, he would look at them and say, you're right. You are some kind of sewer, he would say. You're some kind of sewer. And that was his version of connoisseur. And he said that to me many times. Maybe he was right. Juliet says, I have a 7:15 workout. I wanted to say hi. Hi, Juliet. And it's 7:17, so you're probably warming up now. Probably warming up. Yeah, and Sandy says, I drink Mac Cafe. That was what I was drinking in the K-Cups. And then the thing that got me started on this whole coffee quest nonsense was that video came up in my feed on YouTube that said, the 10 worst coffees in the world, do not buy these. And I said, it's sounded clickbaity, but I said, well, let me just see what they think are the worst coffees in the world. And most of the worst coffees in the world, with the most trash and garbage in them, with absolutely no, I hate to say this, but just commercialized to the nth degree by big companies. And on that list were Nescafe, Folgers, and way at what they consider the world's worst quality coffee, Up Pops McCafe. And they said, and it's especially bad if you use K-Cups, because now you're getting microplastics. And I said, well, it goes to show you that's exactly what I thought was the best. Turns out that they say it's the worst. And I said, well, maybe it's time for me to try. Not that I'm all that worried about the microplastics, but maybe it's time for me to try to up my coffee game a little bit. And really make my own opinion on it. That's what I'm doing now. So here's to you. But yes, I liked the taste best of the McCafe. And I used both. In fact, must have 150 of each K-Cups in boxes sitting in my pantry now, because I stocked up on that stuff. And I'm evidently not going to use it until I decide that this whole thing is much to do about nothing. And it's just Another form of propaganda, and people try to sell you something that costs more. And Jerry says, "Thank you, Mitch. We're hoping you liked it." Yeah, I'll let you know. The jury's still out. The jury's still out. All I can say for sure today is it's not bitter. Maybe I like it bitter. Who knows? It is different. There's a different flavor to it. Whether I like it better or not, the jury's still out. Larry Ryan's here. Good morning. Super Tuna's here. How you doing? Good to see you. And Peter's here. Good morning, Peter. And Jerry says, make coffee the Barry and Jerry way. Fill that cake up all the way up. Yeah, I think you got a point there. I'm going to try that. I'll try that. I'll make another cup after this is over. Yes, fill the cake up, Barry says, and when you start grinding, it will be stronger. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I bought a 6-pack of these 10-ounce bags of ground coffee. So I do have a little bit of this to go through. Although maybe I'll order some of the beans and the grinder and try that. But I'm going to, there's so many different ways to make coffee. So many different types of percolators and French presses and all the old good old fashioned. Remember the one that used to sit on the stove and it had the little glass thing on the top and it would bloop, 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 bloop. Well, that, and for health reasons, I've settled on the unbleached paper filter part because that's supposed to filter out whatever carcinogens might be in the coffee or microplastics as well from the K-cup. So I got these little tiny filters for the K-cup. Life could be so. I'm trying to make my life simpler, not more complicated. Tammy's here. Hiya, Tammy. How you doing? And Bride's Biscuit. Yeah, you said that last night. Use their kick-ass blend as opposed to be a smart ass. See, a smart asses evidently don't like our coffee as strong as people who kick ass. So I guess I'm more of a smart ass kind of a guy than a kick ass kind of a guy. But I took that bit of advice from one other coffee video I had seen a while back where they recommended that the healthiest, forget flavor and all that other stuff aside, but the healthiest coffees are not dark roasted, because when they dark roast them, evidently they create more bad stuff, which is the same way as when you overcook food. You create free radicals, and they suggest medium roast. So I said, well, that makes sense. How much difference it really makes. And maybe it's that burnt stuff from overcooking or dark roasting the beans that adds to the flavor that some people really, really like. Maybe that's where I was. Maybe I liked that slightly burnt, bitter flavor to my coffee. I don't know. It's coffee. It's coffee. Sometimes people, when you go to a restaurant, a fine restaurant, steakhouse or something, we used to go, and they used to bring out coffee, and it was the best coffee I ever had in my life. And God, but who knows what they put in it to make it taste that good? Some people put salt in their coffee. Just a hint of sweetness, even if you don't put sugar in your coffee, makes some say, wow, that's delicious coffee. But when you just drink your coffee black and there's nothing in it, that's when you can maybe make an honest evaluation. And all our tastes are different anyway. So at least the conversation today is topical to the live stream morning coffee, and we're talking about coffee. uh, and Rick, yeah, Rick, I know you don't elevate anything. And you may, after all, Rick, you may be one of the few guys around here that actually uh, is doing what I seem to be working towards, is just unsophisticating my life, getting simpler and simpler. I don't think I'm ready to cook with swamp gas quite yet, but Rick, you're a model for us all. Yeah, and Sandy says I pay $17 for 2 pounds of McCafe. I was paying $17 for 4 pounds of that Amazon house brand coffee. It was cheap as hell. Maybe I don't even know what delicious coffee is. Certainly nobody that drinks their coffee any other way than black is judging anything but the crap they put in their coffee. It's like some people who put so much seasoning and barbecue and sugar and everything on their meat and then say, wow, this meat tastes good. Have no idea what the meat tastes like. They're just tasting all the seasonings and everything else. So that's a step towards purity, I guess, in drinking black coffee. But the number one complaint that most people have against black coffee is they say it tastes bitter. I kind of acquired a taste of that. When I was a young man, I first started out, my mother drank coffee with cream and sugar, and that's how I thought coffee was supposed to be. But went into the Army, and that cured me of that real quick. Rick says, I'm right. Oh, of course I'm right, Rick. I'm the primitive one here. Yeah, it's not a bad way to live. Like I say, it's one step away from being a prepper, one of these doomsday people that lives off the grid and doesn't want to rely on anybody in society. And, if the bad stuff happens and the shit hits the fan, they might be the only ones to survive. But then you ask yourself, well, survive for what? What humans have had up until very recently in history, just a daily fight for shelter and survival. Maybe that is the meaning of life. Who knows? Who knows? Manny Meadows, hi. How you doing, Manny's? Bertie says, I used to get kicking ass for free because I was friends with one of their delivery people. I didn't drink coffee, so I gave it to my parents. Oh, how about that? Ribeye Susie's here. Hi, Ribeye Susie. How are you? Rick says, an ashtray. I guess when I was talking about the notes and the tastes of different coffees, because I am way behind in this chat. Brian says, I've switched from Death Wish also, organic, but 700 million. Yeah, that's a lot of caffeine. I have no idea. It didn't say anywhere on the bag, anywhere on this thing, how many milligrams of caffeine per cup. And then another thing that we all get wrong is how big is the cup? Because no coffee cup that I have is 8 ounces. That's like a little teacup. This is 12 ounces. So this, according to conventions of measurements, this is a cup and a half of coffee. So I'm deluding myself if I say I drink 3 of these a day. I'm really drinking almost 5 cups of coffee a day based on whose cups. And this is a small cup compared to some of the ones that I have that hold 2 or 2.5 of these. Larry Ryan says, I agree, Mitch, black coffee or with some butter in it. Well, I've never done that. I've never even tasted coffee with butter in it. To me, putting anything in my coffee just it goes against the grain. Maybe I'm a purist in that respect. Same thing with cigars. They make these flavored cigars. Ugh. Maybe the aroma is a little more pleasing, but the taste is horrible in those things. And Brenda McIntyre is here with her daily words of wisdom. Morning, everyone. Don't let your meat loaf. I think that's good words to live by. And speaking of meat, Publix, of course, has had sales going on. Last week it was New York strip in a roast, which you can cut up into steaks if you want. And of course, there's no bone in a New York strip because the bone that's next to the New York strip is the T-bone of a T-bone or porterhouse cut. When you look at a T-bone, the big side is always the New York strip, and the small side is always the filet mignon. And when you get to the ones where the filet mignon is really big, which is the part of the loin where it's the biggest, they renamed those particular cuts porterhouses to make them, I guess, sound better so they can charge you more for them in restaurants. But when you buy the prime rib on sale at Publix, you pay a bone-in price, but the way they, unless you buy the whole loin as they get it before it's butchered, they actually separate the bone from the rib roast and put it in with the package. So even though it's this year $9.99 a pound, you're also buying the bones and the ribs as well as the steak. So they do weigh something. I would rather buy without the bone for $9.99, but I remember just 2 years ago, it was $5.99. I bought a ton of it, but I've since gone through all that. So my son went shopping this year, and he has, in his vernacular, gotten a boatload of steak that he bought and butchered, cut it up into 1.25 inch steaks, and vacuum sealed for me. And I'm going to go over today and pick them up. And I'm going to take him a whole box of vacuum sealer bags as a thank you, and pay for him too. I don't expect my son to buy my food, so I'll reimburse him for what he paid for the steaks. But tomorrow morning, I may be fat and happy when it comes to my steak inventory, and I'll start eating more steaks because I haven't been eating many steaks at all since I had the stroke. I haven't been able to go shopping for them. I'm not going to let the Sam's Club order pickers pick out which steaks they want to sell me at full price. I used to go there and find the marked down stuff and really get some great steaks. And I need to start doing that. I need to start doing that again. I'm starting to, if anybody's interested in my recovery process, I'm starting to walk mostly unassisted, but I do carry a cane. Not basically just for stabilization, because the problem that keeps me from just going out there and walking with no support is the balance issues. And the balance issues, I never thought it would come to that, but evidently it comes to that a hell of a lot more than it comes to anything else, a strength or anything. I've got my leg strength back. I can pop up out of chairs, no problem. It's the balancing and the amount of energy it uses. And I found that when I walk, I have the cane. I have the cane in my left hand. And I use the cane opposite of my right leg, which is the one that was affected by the stroke. If I just touch it to the ground, just touch it, not even put any weight on it, just touch it to the ground and feel that it's planted on something solid, my whole balance works differently. I don't feel at all teetery, and I can walk twice as fast. So I think I'm at a point now where I could probably start doing the Sam's Club thing in the morning, walking around the big store, using the shopping cart kind of as a walker, but carrying the cane, and using the cane to walk any distances I might need to walk. My next experiment is going to be to try to go for a long walk with just my cane out in the neighborhood. I've already walked down to the end of my street and back a few times. And and most of it I can do just keeping, lifting the cane off the ground. But knowing that I have it in my hand and I can touch the ground with it and get some stability, kind of helps with the fear of falling and the consequences of a fall, especially if I happen to have one out on a hard concrete and I'm nowhere near my house. And at my age, when you fall, it's not like being a kid, an 18-year-old playing soccer who's on your ass half the time. It can be painful, and you can break something. So all part of getting old, I guess. I started that little explanation as to why I haven't been eating steak lately, but I miss it. And I think it's healthier to eat beef. I've been living mostly on ground beef, but I think I want to get back to the steak again. Anybody ask me any questions yet? Let me see. Question, how are you, boss? Well, I got all the way up to that. Here we go. Here's a question. DS111. Probably a smart-ass question, but old boss, I incorporated Celtic or Celtic, whether you're a basketball fan or a music fan. In music, it's pronounced Celtic. I believe Celtic is the proper pronunciation for that word, but for some reason, the basketball team is known as the Celtics. Maybe because in Boston, they talk funny. I don't know. No offense, Barry. You don't talk like a typical New Englander. After finding red sand at the bottom of a small container of water, after I added Redmond to it and dissolved it, could sand like that cause kidney stones? Probably not. I doubt that. I don't think so. It didn't dissolve. It of course probably was some natural mineral in the Redmonds. I've never tried to dissolve Redmonds in water and see what settles out. But with those, something as big as a grain of anything would be just superficially filtered, especially if it isn't dissolved. And what causes the stones, they're kind of deposited at a molecular level. The calcium oxalates, one molecule at a time, trying to get through the kidneys, can attach and crystallize. But I doubt something as big as a a grain of anything that you can see could basically attach to anything. And more than likely, if it even got to the kidney before it got digested by some function of the body or broken down chemically in the body, if it ever got to the kidneys, it would probably pass through. Almost like a kidney stone will finally end up passing through. Hard to say. Hard to say. But I don't think, and I don't know about the Celtic sea salt. As long as it's clean salt, why not? I use the Himalayan pink salt, but even there's so many brands of them with so many cautions about them that, you know, all that stuff always brings out the cynic in me, as did the search for the coffee, you know, because most of the time when something costs a lot more, it's all hype. It's all hype. I know that this coffee, with the barcode label on the bottom and delivery guys delivering it, is a huge enterprise designed to look like a mom and pop deal. Just like all the designer brands and the stuff that they sell in Whole Foods, it's supposed to be so far above all the other foods in purity. It's still Amazon. It's still mass produced. I'm sure all of this coffee doesn't come from Juan Valdez's farm at the exact altitude in the mountains of Colombia, like it shows you on TV. So how much of the money that I'm paying for this coffee goes into distribution, into packaging, into paying Amazon so much to sponsor it so that their listing shows up at the top, and how much of it really finds its way into the actual quality of the product. So the same thing is true with meat and everything else. When you're living next door to a regenerative rancher and you can go meet your food before as it's growing up, and don't get too attached to it where you can't have it slaughtered, how do we know? How do we know what this stuff's been through or where it's been? And we can only do the best we can, and we can safely assume that if it's the cheapest, probably not the best. But unfortunately, we can't safely assume that because it's the most expensive, it's the best. That's true of everything from food to automobiles. Anybody that's ever owned a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce will attest to that. They'll attest to that. I never had a car that broke down as much as this Rolls Royce I had. And the Mercedes was a close second. A car that costs so much money that can't even get to 100,000 miles without timing chains blowing up and needing $10,000 engine repairs. And these idiots with the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and the supercars and the Bugattis that'll pay $4,000 just for a set of head gaskets. That's just a level of wealth where money means nothing. And there are always companies that take advantage of people like that. Unfortunately, I've never been at that level. Never been at that level. Kicking Horse, says Bride Biscuit, is reviewed as low acid, so less bitter and generally smooth. Yeah, seems to be. It seems to be. Whether the acids in the coffee and the coffee oils are responsible for its perceived quality and good taste, who knows? Yeah, yes, I saw that about 10 more coffees, just ignore the BS. Yeah. Yeah, so many of these videos are just artificial AI produced. They have no, I saw one this morning in my YouTube feed, and it was on a medical subject, the diet subject, but they got this AI doctor. It's an old, and I've seen him in other videos too. And he's standing off to the side, and he's got a white stethoscope. I mean, white coat and a stethoscope, and he always occupies the left half of the screen, and he just goes through the motions with his hands and talking, and it's a loop. It's a loop. It's not. And if you try to match the words that are being said to his lip movement, you can't, because his lips is just too small in there. But they don't match. So what they do is they have an AI generated script with an AI generated voice, and AI generates this entire video, and it looks like this is this doctor. It's got some generic channel name like Advice for Seniors. They're got to be making money because they get hundreds of thousands of views on these stupid things. And all they do is they go and look for hot trending topics on YouTube and let AI generate them and make the videos for them. And they're easy to spot. But people just get sucked into these. They have fabulously compelling thumbnails, clickbaity as hell, and things that most people are going to be interested in, like, don't ever drink any of these 10 brands of coffee. Well, what coffee drinker is going to wonder, well, I wonder if my brand is in there? It's a tremendous psychology. The only thing I don't like about it is that I'm not doing it. Because if I was doing that, I'd probably be making a ton of money on this YouTube stuff here. Yes. But that's not what I want to do. Let's check. Mary Health says, good morning. There's a question. Don't grind coffee fine for cups, or the water backs up and you have a mess. No, I agree, Laura. I have ground coffee in my lifetime, and you don't want it too fine to grind. They use a real fine grind when they make espresso, because it makes a little stronger coffee. So the strength of the coffee is also going to be dependent on the strength of the grind. But you're right. You get a powder too small, and it traps water. And more questions. It's a strange balance. Roasting is processing, but it removes caffeine. Roasting nuts similarly reduces micronutrients and antinutrients. Oh, microtoxins. I guess it's case dependent. Well, if we consider cooking as processing, then we're all eating processed foods unless we eat our food raw. And I think we've learned by now that raw doesn't always mean better, especially when it comes to vegetables and plants. And the reason that we made them palatable and not poisonous so much was different preparation techniques. But that's not what I think of when I think of processed food. I mean, if you buy a steak at Costco, it's processed food. Unless you walk up to the cow, kill it, and cut it up when it's alive, you yourself are still processing it, unless you just walk up to a cow and sink your teeth into it. Then it would be unprocessed, I guess. So that's another problem that we have in this whole thing. We have no clear definitions of anything. What's the definition of, what does it mean to be carnivore? What does it mean to be keto? We try to define them. So many carbs a day. According to who and counted how? What about the carbs we don't count? And then the real purists come in and say, you know, an egg's got sugar in it, so if you eat eggs, you're not a real carnivore. You know, we take it to these ridiculous degrees. Then we get to the Nazi part that basically say if you're doing anything other than walking out into the pasture and biting the cow itself, that you're not doing it correctly. You got to eat raw fat. I'm sorry. We've come a long way in a couple of million years. Things, little insignificant things like inventing fire and getting used to eating cooked meat. We talk about how bad burnt meat is for us. And yet, when it gets burnt to a point where you've got like that burnt ends of a brisket, the Maillard reaction, that is what we think is the food that tastes the best. And the barbecue industry was invented. And people who eat barbecue, and maybe it's got a little sugar in the rub, are not going to probably become diabetic from just that. But for some reason, we like it. So we say, on one hand, follow your instincts. If it tastes good, it's probably good for you. Well, we all know that's not true, because the foods that are the worst for us are the ones that are engineered to hit all the right buttons, the processed foods. So what's the standard? What standard do we have? We talk about fasting. I was talking about that on Kilts this morning. Fasting. What does it mean? Well, fasting means no food. No food with any nutrition. Let's add that. So water, which has no nutritional value, is okay in a fast. You know, no calories. What does the calorie even mean? We don't know that. So we keep defining things, and it just creates division and confusion. And this fasting thing is the one that kills me all the time, because to me, a fast means you just don't eat. You don't eat. So a fat fast is an oxymoron. You can't eat fat and be fasting, according to my definition of fasting. You can do a water fast or a dry fast. Those terms make sense, but you can't do a fat fast. So I saw a question on Kelsey this morning, and it said, how much fat should I eat in a day on a fat fast? And I said, 0. 0. If you're on a fast, eat 0 fat. You're not on a fat fast, you're on a fat diet, because the diet means you eat, not fast. So fasting is the opposite of diet. Diet is what foods you eat. Fasting is you don't eat any foods. Fasting, says Jim, no food at all. I did it for 3 or 4 days. But is it healthy? Who knows? Well, that's again, autophagy, another wildly misunderstood thing. And keep in mind, and this is where I think we lose sight of the ball sometimes. the planet has millions of species of living things and has had millions of species of living things for hundreds of millions of years. Complex living things. In the past 500 million years or so is when we had this explosion of diverse life. And since then, all the plants and animals came along. So there was nothing prior to 550 million years ago that resembled anything other than fungus or one-celled animals or moss on a rock or something like that. Multicellular life and the concept of a living organism like we are didn't come along in the first 4 billion years of Earth's formation. It came along pretty recently, about 500 million years ago. And we know this, and we know this pretty much without a doubt because of the fossil record and analysis of life and genetics and everything else. And we come up with two huge, we call them epochs or eras, the Precambrian and the current one. And since that time, life has been taking care of itself, evolving, splitting off into different species, adapting, and reproducing. And that took care of what survived and what didn't. And anything that didn't work too well went extinct. And everything that worked could reproduce and pass its instructions on to the next. And that's called evolution. And it happened. And we have evidence for the fact that it happened. And I've already talked about the fact that if you don't think that happened, I got nothing for you. You're in the wrong place. We know so much now, and we're learning more every year. Every year, our science grows, our ability to detect things from the stuff that we dig up. And keep in mind that most of what happened lays buried somewhere, and we'll never dig it up. But occasionally you find something. You know, we found many things that gave us tremendous clues. And over the year, tens of thousands of very smart people have done enough studies and argued about it, and debated about it, to where there's consensus now among most that the way we think it happened now is pretty close. And during all that time, and all those species of animals and plants and everything, most of them weren't conscious, weren't thinking. They just existed, and everything worked just fine. If it hadn't worked just fine, we wouldn't be here. It's only in a very, very recent last millisecond of time on a grand scale that we finally became sentient and aware and developed big enough brains to figure this stuff out and communicate it. And that's why we're different, we human beings. But what we are, and the chemistry and everything that makes us up, and the food that it needs, and everything else that it needs, sunlight, hasn't changed since the time before we actually understood it. So who says today that you need, in order to survive and live and be healthy, you need to complicate it to the point where you need to be in charge consciously of everything that you do? Because if you're just to leave it up to yourself, you couldn't possibly survive. That doesn't make any sense. All we can do is take a perfect system and screw it up. We can't make it any better. With medicine, we can keep it alive longer, but that's not making the actual systems any better. Our intelligence is our undoing. Keep it simple. If you can even trust your own instincts anymore, if your own instincts aren't being manipulated on a daily basis by the food companies and the drug companies, if you're being so bombarded with propaganda every day that you're torn, you don't know what's right, what's wrong. The one thing about carnivore that really attracted me is it's back to pre-civilization nutrition, as close as we can get. But the world is too populated now. There's too many mouths to feed for the old ways to work. So the toughest thing for us in this environment is to figure out how to navigate it, to find food as close to what we evolved on in the last million years or so, to prepare it in the ways that the cavemen and our ancestors that migrated over the last million years managed to survive in small numbers. The world's population at times was less than 10,000 humans during these periods of migrations. There were plenty of big, hairy, wild animals roaming around that we could kill and eat. We didn't have to go to the supermarket and compete for the prettiest piece of prime rib. We've got to learn to make the best with what we've got now, but we have to try to keep it as close to a primal diet. But that doesn't serve the financial interests, the greed, and the ability of the human animal to be corrupt as hell. That was a trait that helped you survive not too long ago and got passed on. So I look at all of this as a big picture over a long period of time, trying to figure out how we got here, why we behave the way we do. And I see that the bad behavior that we call bad behavior today was indeed the behavior of our surviving ancestors. Kill or be killed. The killed, the prey, didn't go on to inherit. That saying, the meek shall inherit the earth, is nonsense. And it plays out every day. You can see it in our whole society. It's not the weak people that are running everything and making all the rules. It's the people that have engineered power and money for themselves. Unfortunately, that's the way nature works. A weak, sick lion doesn't survive. A strong alpha lion hunter survives and goes on to have babies, and those babies inherit his traits. What we're doing as a species and as a society is encouraging the survival of the weakest and not the fittest. Do you ever think about that? Everything that we do to be politically correct has to elevate the weakest of us and punish the strongest, or you're not a good person. But that doesn't help survival. That just makes more mouths to feed. Modern medicine has kept alive people that should never have reproduced with their genetic makeup, should never have lived long enough to reproduce and pass on whatever it is. And now we have strains of genetics which cause disease in people. And we say, well, I can't help it, I'm sick, it's genetic. Well, if it wasn't for modern medicine, you wouldn't have been here. That defective genetics. And that's the kind of thing that eventually, if it keeps propagating, ends a species. And that's where I fear the human race. Now, should we all of a sudden turn mean and let sick people die? We can't do that. No, I don't think we should. But that doesn't change the fact that that's what we got now, and it's become that way. So, Sandy Blythe says, question. I asked the question above, but let me see if I can find it. Let me search for questions real quick, and then we'll end this. Oh, what did I just do? There you go. We want to go QQQ and do a quick search of questions. And let me see if I can find it. How are you, boss? Oh, boss, I got that question. Do you remember the coffee grinders A&P had on the end of it? Yeah, I do that. I do remember that. You just go into an A&P store or most supermarkets and you'd buy the beans and you'd grind them up. And I used to think to myself, well, when you use those grinders, you probably got a taste of whatever was ground up from the person who came before you. Yeah, I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that. And don't grind coffee too fine. You got that one. Are you still adding creatine? Yeah, Tammy, about every other day I do that. I do the creatine and the leucine bit. I think it helps. I think it does help. I've been doing it about every other day. Mitch, is it really worth it to spend $70 for your new coffee versus paying $17 for your old coffee? You maintain that you liked your old coffee and you're not a connoisseur. Well, Peter, I couldn't have asked myself that question any better. And if there are no real health benefits and it's just a matter of taste, I probably go back to the old coffee after I do this. If I really can taste and get a more pleasurable experience out of the new coffee, then it's worth it. Because when you stop to think about it, a couple bucks here and there is not. People go out and spend $5 a day for one cup of coffee at Starbucks, or even at the corner gas station. $2 for a cup, not a cup, a tub. Huge thing. So the cost is not something that I'm really going to factor in. Not when steak costs what it does. I don't worry about the cost of coffee or even the cost of cigars because I smoke cheap cigars. But that's just something we each individually have to ask ourselves. Robbie says, Mitch, are you still taking your leucine? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And Sandy, my question, in a 2-year-old video of yours popped up about before and after pictures. It was fantastic. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you. I have that video. I have that video here. In fact, hold on one second. I think I have it handy. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Hang on a second. This is it. Carnivore. Same exact location. August 2023, 4 years later. I was shocked when I compared these two side by side. I think this was the video here. Better proof of the normal high weight. Look at me. I still look the same. Another thing is that I was absolutely astounded. Look at this. Look at my face. That someone who hasn't seen me until today, I'm gonna not have recognized that. Put that link in the chat if anybody wants to go watch that video. Now this comparison is on the left is me right now, and on the right is me during one of my drone live streams. Look at the difference. I don't know where my cheeks went, but they disappeared. Incredible, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for bringing that up. That was probably. I saw these comparisons. I knew that. That's a neat video. I had held off doing that. Composition had changed, but I had a lot of idea that it was this drastic. I had a lot of requests for that. So there's the link for it in the chat. And if you don't have that, you want to see that video, just go to my channel and type Old Guy Carnivore then and now. And if you type that in there, then and now, it should take you right to that. But it's a pretty neat video. There's a lot of old pictures of Fat Mitch in there from the old days of my struggles for my whole life, trying to be healthy, and wind up at age 78 having a stroke. Always a goal of mine, evidently. So back to the question, Sandy Blythe. Yeah, thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that. And let's see what else we got here as far as questions before we call it a morning. And I wanted to say, to mention this, and we'll have to see what happens, but I did tune into Kilts for a little while this morning, and I heard that Kelsey and Alia were talking about moving their live stream to 7 a.m. I said, what? And Kelsey was saying, yeah, that way we'll get a little more of the people on the West Coast, so we don't have to get up as early. And I'm saying, excuse me. And I said, what would I do? Do I want to compete with my friend Kelsey? Would he forget that I do a live stream at 7 in the morning? Time will tell. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And I'll let you guys tell me what I should do. Should I just get out of his way, or should I go head to head with him? And that would start the great Old Guy Kilts war of 2026. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm not upset about it. Not upset about it. I would never do that to him and decide to come on right on top of him, although I'm used to that now. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think. Sometimes, makes you want to go, Yes, 111 says Kilts was not so loose today. What does that mean? I don't know. Yeah, Rick, just like, you got to know that I would never come on Saturday morning anymore opposite you. I just think you have friends, you treat friends. Lori says, Mitch, always do what works best for your routine. Well, I have no basic. Yes, I have nowhere I have to report to. I like the 7 o'clock stuff, but there's advantages to doing it later. It originally started out and stayed that way for about a year. Morning Coffee with Mitch was at 8:30 in the morning, and that worked out good. I don't want to start a war, trying to, do that alpha male shit. Who's dominant? You get out of my way, I get out of your way. I'm a pacifist. I don't want to fight with anybody. I'm flexible too. I would just, at least, if they decide to do that, have the common courtesy of a phone call so we can talk about it. I'll be the first guy to say, I'd be happy to if it works better for you. You're busier than me. It never bothers me. Never bothers me to be asked if I would mind or could I do something to help. It's just that I never liked bullies. I don't think Hills is that way. We'll see. I was shocked. I mean, I was really shocked and surprised to hear that, because I hadn't heard anything about it. I would like to before I start hearing that stuff on the internet. I'd rather hear it from the person themselves. So we'll see. We will see. At any rate, any more questions in this chat here? Let me see. Let me just. Michael Prager says to ask about resistance training, which he always does. And my answer is the same as it always is, Michael. Lavazza Oro's good coffee. All right, got through all the questions. And that'll do it. So, my friends, it was a coffee kind of live stream. We talked about coffee. We drank coffee. I still have one sip left. Say goodbye to your friends in the chat. I'm reading the, let me take a look and read the last of the chat here and see you saying goodbye. Sadie Bly says, great live today, Mitch. Thank you. Rick says, if I live to 2058, it will be fun. I think I was born in 47, Rick, so I keep thinking about, am I still going to be alive in 2047? I was born in 1947, so 2047, am I still going to be alive, and what will it be like? Crazy. We'll see. In some cases, I'd say I hope not. But we'll see. Everybody, Lori says goodbye. Lady June, bye all. Bye to you. Rick, goodbye, friends in the chat. Don Shire, have a great day. All says Mike Seeley. Jim, thanks for coming, Jim. Maybe get some walking in today, my friend. I intend to. Pamela Suarez says bye-bye. Robbie Autry, great show. Now go outside and smoke a cigar. That's the plan. I usually like to rewatch the replay of my live stream to see if I embarrassed myself and if I did just exactly how far I went in that direction. Jim says, Mitch, looking good. Thank you, my friends. Thank you so much. So, with all that being said, see you tomorrow evening in the members live stream, Thursday night, 7 p.m., and again, Friday morning with morning coffee with moi. And until then, take the rest of the day off and keep eating meat.